Hello BookTube. This is part 22 of my 2022 library tour. Today I'm continuing with history. This is the 10th history shelf of my history collection. These books appeared in book hauls from November, December, and the January. So I have yet to read any of them yet. So this is going to be probably rather short, although not as short as tomorrow's, which is only going to be 6 books. But anyway, so let's get going. The first book is a work of royal history and royal biography. This is The Last King of America, The Misunderstood Reign of George III by Andrew Roberts. This is a biography of George III, possibly focusing primarily on his role as King of America, or as the suzerain of the American colonies. Although it could also be a bit more than that. I, of course, haven't gotten around to it yet, which I really need to. So maybe some point this year I'll get to it. I think Roberts also wrote a biography of Napoleon that's rather popular. Next is work of Soviet history. This is Gulag by Anne Applebaum. I got this from Barnes & Noble for my birthday. My brother gave me a Barnes & Noble gift card, and I used it to pick up Gulag. Next is a book by H.W. Brands. This is Traitor to His Class, The Privileged Life and Radical Presidency of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I went on a bit of a H.W. Brands binge the last few months. This is another work of presidential biography. This is Grant by Ron Chernow. I've heard a lot of great things about this book and really wanted it in my collection. I picked this up from Powell City of Books a few months ago. Moving back in time from presidents to the very early British history. This is The First Kingdom, Britain in the Age of Arthur by Max Adams. This is a UK trade paperback. I picked it up from Book Depository shortly before this came out in paperback in the US. So, haven't gotten around to it yet, and I'm rather looking forward to it. Moving forward in time, this is Rights of Peace, The Fall of Napoleon and the Congress of Vienna by Adam Zamoyski. I picked this up because I'm rather interested in the Congress of Vienna, and I had again to pick up some more of Adam Zamoyski's work, even though I've yet to actually read anything by him. Next is a biography of Genghis Khan. This is Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World by Jack Rutherford. I've seen a number of booktubers I'm subscribed to read and review this book, and I think they quite liked it, so I wanted to pick this up. I picked it up from Book Depository. Next is another going back to American history. This is Nixonland, The Rise of a President and the Fracturing of America by Rick Perlstein. I picked this up from Powell's at the same time I picked up Grant. And I'm quite looking forward to it. Next is a book that I misspoke. I have read this book before. This is The Proud Tower, a portrait of the world before the war, 1890 to 1914 by Barbara W. Tuchman. I read this a number of years ago from my local library and really enjoyed it, and I've wanted it in my collection ever since. But I was very picky with the edition, and I wanted an older edition that wasn't quite the 90s edition, trade paperback edition. So I eventually picked this one up, although there was a bit more dramatic cover than I kind of wanted, but this will do. But I did actually read this, and I did really enjoy it. Going back to the Mongols, this is The Horde, How the Mongols Changed the World by Marie Favreau. I think this was one of the books up for this year's Kindle Prize, but I don't think it won. And next is El Norte, The Epic and Forgotten Story of Hispanic North America by Carrie Gibson. I picked this up for Christmas, or technically it was a Christmas present from my mom, although I did pick it out and hit the send order or place order. So yeah, haven't gotten around to it yet. Next is another work of Napoleonic history. This is The War of Wars, the epic struggle between Britain and France, 1789 to 1815 by Robert Harvey. This book has been making the rounds of BookTube recently. I think Steve Donahue recently hauled it while he was up in Vermont during his 2-week vacation. I think a few other BookTubers have mentioned it as well recently. I think Michael K. Vaughn, and I don't quite remember who else. Next is a 2-part biography of him. This is Hitler, Ascent 1889 to 1939 by Volker Ulrich. And this is the second volume, Downfall, 1939 to 1945, also by Volker Ulrich. And I picked them up from Amazon. And next are the 2 books I picked up from LSU when I finally made an order with them. So LSU, to rephrase what I mentioned in my January book haul, at least last year, LSU had 2 really big sales where 40%, well, pretty much everything in their catalog was 40% off. And I wanted to order something from them earlier in the year, but then I kind of waffled and decided against it. There were a few books that I was interested in, one of which I did pick up used. And then that sale went away, and I think there was a few others that were more selected or selective in the catalog. And then at the end of the year, there was another really big 40% off catalog wide. And I finally decided to go ahead and order with them. Initially, I was going to order some poetry and some fiction because I was getting a strong desire for literary fiction and some poetry. But then I kind of backed away from that idea and decided to pick up some history because I was also seriously contemplating No Fiction 2022 at the time. And so I decided I'll just, in addition to reading no fiction, I would buy no fiction. So I would buy only nonfiction, only history. Of course, that blew up in my face, but that's my story for another video. But I did end up picking up 2 works of history, New Orleanian history. First up is one that I'd wanted for a while, and that is, since I first started looking at LSU's website, and that is Voodoo and Power, The Politics of Religion in New Orleans, 1881 to 1940, by Cody A. Roberts. I'm fairly interested in the subject of voodoo, and I thought this book would be very fascinating. So I will eventually get to it. And finally, for this shelf, work of gay history. This is Southern Decadence in New Orleans by Howard Phillips Smith and Frank Perez. This is about a sort of a parade or cultural event in New Orleans that's very important to the New Orleanian gay community. But I don't know much about it, and I'm looking forward to reading it at some point. So that concludes the 10th History Shelf. Tomorrow I will be wrapping up history with the 11th History Shelf, all 6 books. And then from there, we've got science fiction and fantasy, which is going to take forever. Well, not forever. I mean, we're halfway through now. But, I mean, I have mentioned before, science fiction and fantasy is the bulk of my collection. And you will see that starting Friday. Because it's going to be pretty much almost as long as the rest of the library tour combined. I mean, it'll be a few short, but yeah, it's going to be long. But anyway, BookTube, until tomorrow, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.